one of the things I've seen a lot of people do since COVID especially is that they leave their community in search of cheaper living, different politics, whatever. They leave Southern California because they're searching for something else, and they don't realize what they're leaving behind is their community. And it's really tough to cultivate community and to build deep relationships with people. And I think that's, to me, it's one of the highest values of determining where you want to live is, do you have a good community?
Welcome to the My SGV podcast. Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you're from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome.
All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate it. If you're a longtime listener, sit back and get ready to learn about a new person from right here in the San Gabriel Valley. And if you're new here, we share the stories of the people right here in the San Gabriel Valley. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this time with us. Scott, it seems like you're nervous for this pregame. Sometimes it's like just sprung on you, right? Like what we're going to talk about. But, I've been a part of your fitness journey, very, closely a part of it. But also, like you've described to me, fitness has been an important part of your life for quite some time.
It's really interesting because, there's the question comes up, how do you perceive yourself? How do you perceive yourself and how does it match what you are? And what you think inside is formulated by so many different things. Like I grew up always thinking I was fat, and I don't think I was fat, but I always thought I grew up always thinking I was fat, and so my whole life I think I'm fat. But the funny thing is, I think I'm an athlete. So I think of myself as an athlete. I think of myself as fat. I've never actually reconciled the two. And anyway, I like to eat. So there you go.
Well, what's interesting is I always describe you and what you do in your feats, whether it's the hike or playing basketball. And people who either know the hike or know me as a basketball player would think like, well, how old is he? And then I would share your age, and I can see the curiosity in their mind that they're like, wow, he must be pretty fit. Most people your age are not as active or not as fit. And for the regular listener, Scott and I have shared that we go up on this mountain hike quite often and how strenuous it is. But I don't think it ever really hits home unless you're actually on the mountain and doing it. But there was a time when we were doing it 4 times a week at most. And you remember that feeling? Like it was like you felt so good. And even now we still feel really good about accomplishing it. But
oh yeah, that was so great to know that. Well, we knew that many people could not do that hike. Mm-hmm. Many. I mean, the most fit people you would see tried it. We took up trainers and they couldn't do it.
Yeah. And only one person has ever returned after being invited, like to do it again, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'll share a story of Scott though. This was maybe in 2020 or 21. I think 21. We went up there and you literally went back down and right back up. I won't say what for. I won't say what for.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, doing the hike alone is tough. But
yeah,
I haven't even done that. That was he volunteered to go back down. Something was forgotten at the bottom, so he had to go back down and come back up right after doing it. And I was like, wow, that's tough.
Not only was, but I was carrying some heavy things, not people, not dead bodies, but anyway. It was quite impressive, I have to admit. Yeah.
Well, before we get into our guests, I just want to thank Paris Baguette San Gabriel for providing the refreshments and treats for our guests. I'm actually not sure if he's going to indulge in them today, but thank you, Paris Baguette San Gabriel, for providing those. Well, let me introduce our guest. He is the founder of Village Fitness in Glendora with a new San Marino location. His name is Dr. Matt Klingler. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Did you find our little intro there humor?
I have so many questions. First, can you share where this the strenuous hike is, or secret?
Well, we can, but then, we have to go back afterwards, and there's...
Then I'm going to be carried down from the mountain.
Well, it's actually, there's a photo from the top right behind you. It was given to me from a friend. But are you familiar with elevation gain and distance, so you can have an idea?
Very.
Okay.
I'll talk about it later.
So this is, the distance is 0.69 miles.
Okay.
With 1,114 feet of gain.
Wow. Okay.
And so my best to the very top has been 28:59, and I think Scott's maybe a few minutes after.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I made that time, I just fell over and collapsed. Because I was really pushing myself to go fast, but it is very, very strenuous, and I think because people who go, they don't know where there are breaks, because there are breaks. It's not completely uphill, but there are breaks. Because they don't know, they have to have the mental attitude to say, I'm going to accomplish this no matter what. But you can see the people who are thinking and looking, and they're going through their mind, and they're like, I don't know if I can do this the whole way. Yeah.
Is it close by?
Well, again, we have to take you out back up.
All right, I'm not getting the point.
No.
Yeah, I'm not getting
It is. It's actually at the top of Lake Avenue in Pasadena, or Altadena, rather.
Okay.
So it starts at the Cobb Estate, and rather than going on the main trail up to Echo Mountain, it goes straight up.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll check that out. Well, I resonated with a lot of your story. I actually grew up thinking that I was fat, and actually I have very distinct memories of a couple kids in school telling me that I was fat. And there's something about childhood memories and experiences that really stick in your psychology for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you never lose it. It's always there. Something your parent may tell you, a friend may say, or a friend or a classmate that can be very mean. And yeah, you never forget it.
Yeah. So you are a doctor of physical therapy.
I am.
And is that sort of the origin or the genesis of where your path has gone in your life?
Yeah. So I decided when I was 12 or 13 that I was going to get into fitness. And also at the same time, I got really into wrestling, and I wrestled through high school, through college. And so I knew that I wanted to not be a fat kid, basically. I knew that I didn't want that to be my identity. And from a pretty early age, I had the self-awareness to realize that I could change that. And I started working out, I started lifting weights, I started reading Men's Health magazine, which back in the early 2000s, it was just packed with all this research and information on how to be healthy, and I devoured them. And then I started personal training when I was 18. I started working one-on-one with clients. I grew up in Northern California in a small town called Granite Bay, and I actually started my own personal training business at the age of 18 because nobody told me I couldn't. And I was like, I'm just going to do this and try and figure this out. And so did it for about a year and a half. And then I got into...
Who did you train? I'm curious.
Great question. So I started with friends and family, and I wasn't very good at training. Looking back on it, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just so passionate about it and so excited that I think that it was infectious for them. And so I built up a little following of people. And then I got into UC Davis, which is where I went to undergrad for exercise biology. And, that's about an hour away from home. And I was going to go wrestle there. So I wasn't going to have time to keep personal training. So I left that job, but I knew I needed to keep working while I was in school. So I got a job as a personal trainer on campus, started doing that. I started teaching spin classes, TRX classes, if you guys are familiar with those little yellow straps. And I really I loved it. I've always loved working one-on-one with people, helping them get to their goals. And I also felt like I could do more. And I was like, what's kind of in this vein of health and fitness? And so physical therapy caught my attention because of the attention to anatomy and the added education and knowledge of how to really help people. So I started following a physical therapy track and applied to physical therapy school. And I got into physical therapy school down here in Southern California in the San Gabriel Valley. So I went to Azusa Pacific University, got my doctorate there. And yeah, that's...
so you a doctorate. Wow.
Yeah. It's actually, the whole physical therapy profession is a doctorate level these days. So you have to get a doctorate. Yeah.
So is I don't know what it's called, but it's a DPT, right?
Correct.
And did they used to be just PT?
Yeah, it used to be PT, and then it became a master's, and then it became a doctorate.
I see. So normally I would start off somewhere in the early portion of the show asking what's your connection to the San Gabriel Valley, but you have grown up, went to school outside the San Gabriel Valley, but then you came here for to become a doctor of physical therapy, and you ended up staying here. Is that correct? What made you decide to do that?
The people. We met really fantastic people, and we built these deep, rich connections with our friends and our community. And, we decided to stay here. Even when, it felt like everybody was leaving in 2020, 2021. It's just like a mass exodus. A lot of our close friends left. We still felt like, man, this is the place we're supposed to be. And by that time, we had, a business that was pretty established here. And I think this is also just there's so much opportunity in Southern California, in the San Gabriel Valley. There's a lot of people doing really unique stuff and a lot of people that need help. So I don't think that is something you can find anywhere.
So you have physical therapy offices, 2 of them, is that correct? And are these usually in conjunction with other medical facilities, or are they freestanding?
They're freestanding, and the main thing we do actually is fitness. Physical therapy is probably a third of our business, but 2/3 is group and one-on-one personal training. I think that's what most people need. So they need to exercise, they need to strength train. Like if you really look at the data on longevity and health, like there's 2 things that are really important. One is to do lots of movement, like low-level movement, cardio. Hiking is fantastic, riding a bike, swimming. And then the other is strength training, like resistance training. If you are in the bottom quartile of muscle mass for someone your age, and this is for people over 60, if you're in the bottom quartile of muscle mass, you're 6 times more likely to die of all causes compared to the people in the top quartile. All other factors taken into account, race, gender, whether you smoke or not, those factors eliminated, muscle mass is probably the most important predictor of health. And so knowing that, like, well, how do we help people? We get them strength training. And unfortunately, the strength training is tough to do on your own without a knowledge of how to do it and how to do it safely. And so that's where we've developed a business specifically for people over 40, where we help them to strength train to maximize their longevity.
So I take a fitness test like every 3 or 4 months at the gym that I go to. And I always look at, like key metrics, but I never know really whether I'm healthy or not healthy. But that's a very important number or stat that you referenced, the body mass or muscle mass. What is an acceptable number? What is the top quarter showing in terms of what percentage of muscle mass?
Are you talking about like...
Well, BMI, is that different than, say, muscle mass?
Yeah, so BMI is simply a function of your weight relative to your height, and that doesn't change with age. The muscle mass, like as you get older, you're going to lose muscle.
Right.
But the rate at which you lose it is dependent on, a bunch of different factors, but the 2 primary ones are you doing resistance training? So some sort of resistance training that's challenging your muscles, and are you intaking enough protein? Those are the 2 most important things when it comes to maintaining muscle mass, which is such an important factor in longevity.
So when you refer to muscle mass, it's a percentage. So is there a percentage of muscle mass versus fat, body fat, that you look at when you're evaluating a person?
There's not. So what we do have, though, and maybe there is that data and I just don't know it, what we do have is we have 12 movements that we assess our clients on. We call them our movement standards. They're the 12 what we consider to be the most important exercises for people over the age of 40 to have in place in their life if they want to be strong, balanced, mobile, and have great endurance. And all of these standards we've established for those 12 movements are percentages of body weight. So I'll give you an example. A male over the age of 40 should be able to deadlift 1.5 times their body weight 3 times.
Okay.
And if you have a lot of excess body fat, that's going to be tougher because it's going to bring the number up, and obviously body fat doesn't help you lift more weight. So it's kind of self-limiting in that way. Okay. And our clients that are able to hit all of our movement standards are usually very, very fit for their age.
I like to go back to the earlier part of your own personal story. So you experienced bullying or someone telling you that you're fat, and this mobilized you to take action. But I would imagine that a lot of children at that age aren't mobilized for that, and maybe they can go in a lot of different ways. What made you take the path to actually take action and change things for yourself rather than some other path?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is I had really good parents that didn't push me to do anything, but supported me in what I wanted to do. And so when they saw that, oh, Matt wants to, start working out, they said, oh, we'll pay for your gym membership. We'll drive you there. We're happy to support you in that. When I really wanted to start wrestling and going to all these wrestling tournaments, they drive me to the tournament, but they never did my parents say, oh, you have to do this. And so it was an intrinsic motivation from a very early age, which I mean, that's human psychology. I find that as I work with people now, if they're not intrinsically motivated, it's going to be pretty tough to help them. Anytime I work with someone whose spouse has forced them to be there, they almost never succeed because they don't want it themselves. And so I don't know, I can't put my finger on what made me motivated, but I think I was in the right environment to succeed and to move towards, not having that be my identity. And I guess kind of back to what I said earlier, nobody told me I couldn't. Like nobody told me I couldn't go from being a fat kid to, at least that's what I thought of myself, from being that person to being, an athlete, if you will. And so, I kind of switched my identity over time.
With intrinsic motivation, one of the things that my wife and I are very intentional about is when our children come to us with something that they've done, to resist the urge to judge it, to say, oh, that's great, or that looks really good, or whatever it is, and then just ask them, how do you feel about it? And their own motivation is coming through, oh, I feel good about it. So it's not about what daddy thinks, So we try to start at a very young age, but it sounds like you weren't motivated by anger, Would that be an accurate statement?
That would, yeah. I don't ever remember being angry. I think I remember feeling hurt when, it was only a couple times too. And it's amazing how just a couple instances of someone saying, you're overweight or you're fat just like sticks in your brain. But I remember being upset and frustrated, and then it like changing how I looked at myself. But I certainly wouldn't say I was angry, more, hopeful that I could change and had the ability to change it. I've never felt hopeless about that. And so I wanted to, I started personal training. I was like, I really want to like give this belief to other people. And I think when you're in the service industry or the helping industry, it's really about transferring your belief that someone can change to them and giving them hope.
What's interesting, Scott, in the previous guest, we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, right? She owns a brewery and is a brewmaster, but still feels like a imposter. But I guess in the world of personal training and fitness, you have something to look at in the mirror and you're like, well, I actually am fit.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. So
Still feel that though.
You still feel that way?
Yeah.
Really?
So I'd look in the mirror and I'm like, am I fit enough to do this? Which is probably just the deep seated, things I grew up believing. They're still there in the dark recesses of the brain somewhere.
It's a kind of insecurity.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your fitness path linear? Like you were a personal trainer, you became a physical therapist. Did you dabble in like, let's say CrossFit or powerlifting, or what was your fitness journey like?
Yeah, I've done a lot of different fitness stuff. So I did cycling. I actually raced at UC Davis. So while I was at UC Davis, the wrestling program got cut due to budget things, and so a lot of my friends in the wrestling team, they left the school to go do other sports or to do wrestling at other schools, and I really fallen in love with that community of Davis, and I wanted to go to school there. That was why I was there, was to go to school. Wrestling was just an added benefit. So I was like, I got to find something to do or else I'm going to get antsy. And so I started collegiate cycling. There was a girl that I liked that was on the cycling team, who's now my wife. So I wanted to spend more time with her. And I also was like, oh, that sounds fun, riding a bike.
What is collegiate cycling like? Like what
it's a blast. It's so fun.
Is it distance or?
Yeah.
Or?
So there's 3 events. There's it's kind of like the Tour de France, but obviously on a very small scale, and you just race on the weekends. But there's 3 types of races. There's road races, which are distance. There's criteriums, which are like in a circle. You just do the same little mile loop over and over and over again, which those are my favorite. And then there's time trials, where you're kind of racing a specific distance by yourself or with a team. So I did that. I raced after college a little bit. I did CrossFit for a while. I've done every single fitness boot camp you can think of. I've gone and experienced it and been a part of it. I've done yoga. I got really into P90X for a while with Tony Horton.
What are the offshoot from that? They have a couple offshoots, right? Like that got really popular also.
From like that company?
That company, yeah.
Oh my gosh, they have so many. Yeah.
But he was the originator.
He was, as far as I know, he was really big in the beach body.
That's right. Yes.
World. Yeah. So done a lot of fitness things. I don't remember how we got on this topic.
Just your journey of like fitness, like
yeah,
all the different things that you've tried.
I'm a connoisseur of fitness things.
Okay.
So tried a bunch of stuff, and it's definitely not a linear journey by any means. I don't have it all figured out. I know fairly well what works for me, and I definitely know what works for people over 40 because I've coached thousands of them through that process. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we have tried so many different things to get to the point where we are now, where we can actually pretty authoritatively say, hey, this is what works for someone like you with the health issues you have and the goals that you have. If you want to go to becoming the top 1% of healthy people your age, you need to do these things.
Do you look at a person, you can see their weaknesses or defects, and you want to fix those?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get, that's your satisfaction in life?
That's satisfaction in work, certainly. Is seeing people have their lives transformed. And I think it's most rewarding when they tell you, hey, this is the thing that's really important for me. We had a client that she really wanted to paddleboard with her grandkids, and she lacked the strength to get up from the paddleboard and the balance to stay on the paddleboard. And within about 6 months of doing our program, she came back to me. She's like crying. She's like, oh, Dr. Matt, I just have to let you know that I paddleboarded for 2 hours with my grandkids. And I was like, yes, that's so cool. So to me, when someone wants to accomplish something, or they want to do something, and it's like deeply emotional and they're able to do it, I think that's the most rewarding. And
it's a different story for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, different story for everybody. I have very little interest in helping people that don't want help. You know, like I said earlier, if someone's not intrinsically motivated to seek help, I just like, all right, I don't think I can help you until you really want this. But if they're motivated and they want help and they just don't need the accountability or the direction of what to do, that's where I really, really love that.
Have you delivered that speech to those clients before?
Oh, you're not motivated?
Yeah.
You don't want this?
Mm-hmm.
I ask questions to help people figure that out. So questions like, why is this important for you? And then the people that lack motivation will often say things like, well, I don't know. My wife tells me that I need to get healthy. And that's when I'll say something like, you know, our most successful clients almost always want it for themselves. And so I just want to challenge you to think pretty deeply about why this is important for you, not your wife. Like, what are you worried about happening in your health 5-10 years from now? Because right now you have diabetes and you're taking metformin and you're not exercising. So the research shows that within 10 years, you're going to be immobile.
Yeah.
Like, are you concerned about that? And so just helping them like look into the future, and they're like, well, yeah, I guess I am pretty darn concerned about that.
Can you share a story of an unexpected transformation of one of your clients that, you know, maybe you didn't think that they were going to have the transformation that they really wanted, but sort of surprised you?
Yeah. A client of ours, his name was DJ, and he came into my office this is a couple of years ago. He didn't seem like, he's just a regular blue collar guy, didn't seem like somebody that was going to be super successful with the program, just because he'd failed a bunch of times in the past. And he had our first consultation. He ended up signing up for the program, and I gave him a copy of our book that we wrote. And I remember he came back a couple days later, and he's like, I read the entire book, and I'm all in. I'm going to do all the things. And he did. He went all in, did all the things. He got to a healthy weight, got off the diabetes medication that he was on, and now he's no longer in the program, but he's still exercising and eating really healthy, and that kind of stuff gets me pumped up.
Yeah. Well, Matt, we ask each guest to bring an item of significance with them. What did you bring with you today?
So I brought this mug. It's actually a mug of the John Muir Trail, and three of my really close friends and I, who I met in the San Gabriel Valley. This is the connection to the San Gabriel Valley.
Okay.
We hiked the John Muir Trail together rather quickly 2 summers ago. So summer of 2022, we hiked the trail together, and I am really thankful for those 3 guys that are such a big part of my life. They were actually a big reason why we decided to stay here, and they're pretty integral to our business. 2 of them still work for us. One of them no longer works for us, but they're like my best friends. And I think that community and social connection to me is the most important thing in determining where you live. So this cup is rather meaningful to me.
And for the listener who may not know what the John Muir Trail is or where it is, can you describe that?
I was hoping you were going to ask. So the John Muir Trail is a 211-mile trail that goes from Yosemite to Mount Whitney in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And so we started in Yosemite and then hiked all through Yosemite National Park, Kings Canyon, and then Sequoia, and ended up at the top of Mount Whitney.
And so for the listener who can't see visually, the cup looks like it's a bunch of peaks represented.
Yeah, there's a bunch of peaks on there.
And Whitney is like a 14K, right?
14.5.
And that's where you end up? Is that the last one on the
the
right?
last one, and then you got to walk down to the car.
So you have to submit for the lottery for this, right? So that you can climb Whitney at the end?
Good question. So if you get a John Muir Trail permit,
I see.
Whitney is included in that permit.
I see. Okay. And so it was the 4 of you?
It's the 4 of us.
Wow, what an experience.
Yeah.
And how long did that take?
A week.
A week? I'm trying to do the math.
That's 31 miles a day.
Wow, that is incredible. That is incredible. And what kind of gear are you guys hauling?
So we spent a year training for it. It's the most significant physical feat I've ever accomplished in my life. And we spent a year testing gear, trying different things out, and all of us had very, very light backpacks. We all slept under a single tarp on sleeping mats that were also very light, with very light sleeping bags. And we didn't cook any food, so we didn't bring anything to heat food or heat water. We ate a lot of salami and cheese, and I did cold soak, which is like various types of oatmeal or pasta or rice. You just put water in, and it makes it soft, and you eat it.
The enormity of what that represents is just incredible. I mean, doing Whitney is quite a feat in and of itself. Doing this at a much slower rate is quite a feat. And I don't know if the listener can really appreciate 31 miles in a day, that continuously for 7 days. That's something. And not flat.
No, it's very, very steep.
I mean, that's 2 miles an hour, day in and day out, for 7 days.
But so much of it is actually above 6,000 feet, which you're going to feel the effects. That's something else. Wow.
Yeah, it was type 2 fun. So there's type 1 fun, which is fun while you're doing it and fun after to talk about it. Type 2 fun is not fun while you're doing it, but fun to talk about after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why did you guys decide to go at such a clip?
So we, our business actually operates on what we call a 12-on, 1-off cycle. So we operate for 12 weeks. We treat patients and train clients and do nutrition coaching, and then we take a week off. We call it rest week. So we do that same cycle every 13 weeks. So all of us had the week off. We're like, all right, we've wanted to do this epic hike for a long time. We'd love to do it. We really wanted to do it in 2 weeks. That would have been a still challenging, appropriate amount of time. And somebody had the crazy idea. They're like, what if we just did it in a week? What if we trained for a really long time and just knock this thing out, just hiked all day? And again, all of us were kind of crazy enough to be like, I think we could do that.
Did you need recovery time?
After?
Yeah.
I was exhausted.
So you couldn't go back to your 12-week routine immediately, or did you?
We go back to work?
Yeah.
I went back to work, yeah.
You did?
Yeah. But I remember we got back, and I was, for about 3 weeks, I was going to bed around 7 and just not feeling like I had enough sleep, even sleeping 10, 11 hours.
I'm curious about type 1 and type 2 fun. Is type 2 fun something
Your hike that you guys do is type 2 fun.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're having fun talking about it today. And you made me want to do it, but I know it's suffering. That sounds brutal. There's nothing.
Why don't you come on the hike?
I would love to.
Oh, yeah.
Right now.
Okay. We're going tomorrow morning.
Okay.
At 6 a.m. we usually go. We're doing it tomorrow at 6, right?
That's right. But this is,
I mean, it's nothing compared to this.
There's nothing as steep as what you guys do.
Yeah, but still, you did consistent, nonstop. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I'm really impressed. That's really
thanks, Russell.
quite an accomplishment. Yeah, and that you delivered it in this way that was no big deal, and it is quite impressive. So
yeah,
I hope the listener can really appreciate what that means. So
yeah, I want it more to be. It's really cool that we did that. But the reason I'm here in the San Gabriel Valley is because of the people. And I think that one of the things I've seen a lot of people do since COVID especially is that they leave their community in search of cheaper living, different politics, whatever. They leave Southern California because they're searching for something else, and they don't realize what they're leaving behind is their community. And it's really tough to cultivate community and to build deep relationships with people. And I think that's, to me, it's one of the highest values of determining where you want to live is, do you have a good community?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's so important. You're raising a lot of really important points to me. At this time in my life, I'm thinking of moving to another community.
Are you?
Yeah, and it's a deep. I wouldn't leave San Gabriel Valley.
You can't.
On a. I can or I can't.
I'm just kidding. I said you can't. You can't leave the SGV.
Well, I wouldn't ever leave the SGV on a permanent basis,
okay.
But it's always going to be at least partly home. But I'm curious also about type 1, type 2, because is type 2 something that is, do you think that people should have type 2 in their life?
Oh, man, absolutely.
Oh, they definitely need it.
Yeah. So my belief is that the world today, the society today, is really tailor-made for our comfort and convenience. And you've got Netflix that'll play the next episode before you press a button, and temperature-controlled cars and houses. Uber Eats will even come drop the food off for you without you having to, lift a finger. And those are really nice conveniences. And I'd actually prefer to live in the world today than the world 100 years ago. But I think that those things make us rather weak and soft and not very resilient and filled with grit. And so I think the solution to that is to actually go seek out things that are hard, that challenge us, that push us out of our comfort zone.
Why?
Because it makes us a better version of ourselves. It makes us able to do hard things. It makes us more purposeful.
Why do we need that? Why can't we watch movies all day long?
I mean, you can. I think that one of the reasons there's such high instance of depression and anxiety in our society today is because people are finding meaning and purpose in things that aren't very meaningful. And I guess you definitely don't have to do things that are challenging or hard, but I think life is on the whole a lot better that way. Just like type 2 fun, it's like it's really hard while you're doing it, but it's like, oh, life is so much more. I bet if you guys do that hike, you feel pretty good the rest of the day. It's like,
oh, definitely.
I accomplished something. I went to the mountaintop. That changes you psychologically. It helps you to believe that you're the type of person that can do hard things. And I think when you believe that about yourself, everything else in life becomes a lot easier and I think a lot more enjoyable too.
But I always wondered why I have to feel I need to accomplish something. Why do you feel you have to, do something strenuous?
I think that we're built to enjoy and seek out great things, and that great things cannot come without difficulty and struggle. I think that.
Because it's certainly a pattern in my life, though. I mean, I always seek out the harder, approach, but I don't know why, and I don't know why that should be important. And Is it possible that there is a great part of our population that doesn't do that?
I think so.
More that don't do it than that do it?
Well, I think it's human nature to gravitate towards the comfort and convenience. And so it takes like a conscious overriding of that. And some people, I'm sure, like yourself, they tend to consciously override that comfort and convenience pretty often. And I think we get a reward from that. There's like the dopamine we get from exercise that's released. There's the feeling of accomplishment. For some people, that becomes euphoric, if you will. And they really start to seek that out, to seek out that accomplishment and that feeling. So maybe that's you, Scott.
I want to just, you
don't have a problem. I think it's healthy.
Fruit Loops all day.
You do, but you don't do it.
I don't, but I'm going to. I'm going to make sure I do.
I'm sure you've been to Mount Waterman. Have you been up there?
No.
There's a ski resort up there in the San Gabriel Mountains, but if you go up there and you get to the peak, the trees become very sparse. The plant life is almost non-existent, but the trees there are so robust. Mm-hmm. They're so vibrant and healthy and thick, and the weather up there is so awful, very windy. And you just look around, and I remember thinking, like, the reason that they are so robust is because they're put through so much all the time, and that's the only thing that survives up there. Mm-hmm. They're constantly against the elements up there, but they're very, very strong for it.
That's a really interesting analogy. I think that's very congruent with human beings. There's a fascinating research study that was done on college swimmers, and they looked at they did this kind of sadistic thing where they'd poke them with a needle, and they'd ask them, how much pain do you feel on a scale of 0 to 10? And then they looked at the swimmers in season when they were really trained cardiovascularly, doing these really hard, grueling workouts. And they reported way less pain with the same amount of pressure from the needle in season compared to out of season. And what they surmised from the study was that people that do things that are uncomfortable and challenging, they actually experience less pain from the same stimulus. And I think that's really great because there's a pain epidemic in our society today. But I also think it's a microcosm of something bigger, which is that when we do things that are challenging, it makes us able to handle stress better. Mm-hmm. So maybe that answers your question to some degree from before, like why should you do things that are hard?
There's also a physiological, measurable positive benefit to our bodies enduring stress, at least to the elements. Cold, like our body's adaptation to cold and our brown fat response, like we can handle that, and then some would argue that we need that, right? But we're so comfortable in just a small narrow range of temperature, mm-hmm. and whenever it gets a little bit outside, or we want to have comfort again rather than sort of experience that.
Okay, you guys have convinced me.
You're not going to do the Fruit Loops?
I'm not. I'm going to beat myself up every day.
Self-flagellation, huh?
Yeah.
I'm glad that was your takeaway from my whole diatribe.
Yeah. No, but the cold plunge. The cold plunge is like you feel so good afterward, right? Or at least I do.
Do you do that, Russell?
In Canada, because we have free access to the elements, and we can freeze a whole bunch of water and get the tub cold. But as I understand it, I don't need to get it that cold. So,
swimming pool, I've heard, does the trick in the winter.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Matt, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to learn more about your vision for the future of Village Fitness. But let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
At Warmouth Law, they believe that just because you speak a foreign language, come from a different culture, or simply don't know how to navigate the legal system, that should not prevent you from compensation from injury or receiving benefits. Their multicultural staff have been helping SGVers like you for over 38 years. Visit law888.com or call them at 626-784-7017 and tell them you heard about them on this podcast.
All right, we're back with Matt. We're enjoying Scott's jokes before the break. I'm still thinking about that, him hitting and abusing himself for number 2 fun.
You haven't seen my hair shirt?
Well, Matt, when we come back from the break, we like to ask questions from this box of cards called Icebreakers, and they're just a way for the audience to get to know all of us a little bit more. You can choose to answer if you wish or not. The question is, what's your dream car?
Oh man, I really want a Rivian truck.
Oh, is that like that high?
It's all electric.
Okay.
Or you're gonna say
High tech.
Yeah, it does seem high tech. I've never been inside one, but they're like they have all these cool features. Like there's this tube underneath the back seat where you can like put anything in it. I don't know why. I just think that's really really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Currently I have a Honda Element that I've had for like 15 years. So I'm holding out until I get to my dream car.
Element. Is that
It's like a toaster. It's a box car.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Scott?
I've never been into cars. I drive a Tesla, which I think is like an absolutely incredible car, just like you mentioning the Rivian, right? I mean, it just has features you don't even know why they're there, but they're just so incredible. So I like Tesla. I just like the vehicle. I like the technology, but other than that, I'm not a car person.
So my dream car right now is to actually have my old car from my first car back. Yeah. It's a 1986 Toyota Corolla GTS. So if you know that, it's like sort of a cult car, and now if you found one, just the shell with no engine in it, it'd probably cost like $30,000.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Why is it a cult car? What was it about that?
It was a Corolla, dual overhead cam, and it was rear wheel drive. And so it was great for drifting. And it had the same motor that was put into the MR2, which was a much more sporty engine. It was the 4AGE motor. And so it had this powerful motor in a small, affordable car, rear wheel drive, and totally customizable and upgradable, right? Like you can do all this stuff to it. And so that was the culture of when I grew up. And 5 of my friends had the same car. And it was such a sight to see all of them going down the street. And yeah, I no longer have that car. So I'm sort of sad about that. I wish I still had it. But yeah, that's my dream car. And Toyota or Scion had a collaboration with, I forget who it was, Scion and another maker, and they came out with the FRS or the BRZ. Oh, I'm sorry, Subaru. So Subaru and Scion, which is a division of Toyota, had a collaboration and came out with the FRS or the BRZ, depending on what it was. And in Japan, that car is called the Toyota 86. It is the modern version of my car, in 1986. Yeah. So anyway, that's my dream car. If you're listening to the show or if you're watching on YouTube, let us know what is your dream car. Put it in the comments and we'll be sure to share it on a future episode. So Matt, back to Village Fitness. Your original location is in Glendora, but you've also recently opened a location in San Marino. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's, I guess, along that 210 corridor, right? You must travel. What is your vision for, your 2 stores in the future? Do you plan to expand, or what is your plan?
We do. Our hope is to have 20 locations in the next 10 years.
20?
20.
Wow. All operated by you?
Yeah, we would own them all, and then there'd be an operator at each location as there is now. So kind of it's definitely a big dream. I mean, having 2 right now feels like a lot. And it's so fun and so rewarding to get to do the work that we do. But still, like, you're working with people, and working with people is challenging. It's hard work, whether that be clients or staff. We have great staff, and it's still like, oh man, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. What is this? What is one of your facilities like? What do you have there?
A good question. So, our facility in San Marino, our new one, we have a group fitness studio. So that's the group fitness is the bread and butter of what we do. It's like 60% of our business is group fitness. Something like 85% of our clients are in our group fitness program. So it's 8 people, 1 coach, and each person has their own workout station. And at the station, there's a TRX, there's a squat rack, there's a couple different barbells, there's weights to go on the side of the barbell, and bands. And then we have dumbbells and kettlebells and slam balls that are on the sides of the room. We also have a device called a ski erg, which is like a cardio machine, like a rowing machine kind of put up on the wall. That's how we do all of our cardio training. And then we have a physical therapy room. in the back. And that's where I treat patients one-on-one. And that's kind of the model I think we're headed towards. Like, there's the big studio where we do group fitness. There's one or more physical therapy rooms, a locker room with a bathroom, showers, things like that.
What's it called where you go from station to station in a,
circuit training?
Circuit training.
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
So people don't move around. It's very focused on strength training. So we're pretty diligent about tracking our clients' workouts across those 12 movements that I spoke about earlier. And what we do is the exercises we do, we didn't make them up. Like, people have been doing these exercises for millennia. Mm-hmm. It's deadlifts and squats and overhead press. Some of the movements are fairly unique to what we do. We do a side bend and something called a Jefferson curl and a single leg movement. We do a full range of motion lunge where you're bending your knee all the way, and a few others like push-ups, pull-ups. But they're not, extraordinary exercises. It's what's extraordinary about our program is I think that we start people at the right level. So everybody meets with a doctor of physical therapy before they start, and they get a starting level for all the movements. And then we progress people very intentionally when they're ready to progress. They have to hit some really specific criteria to get progressed. They got to be able to do it, all the repetitions with full range of motion, good form, good coordination, and no pain. Now, I think that somebody could totally take our program and go do it on their own. And my hope is eventually we build a program that people can do on their own, because I know not everybody's going to be able to come to my studio and train there. So I do think it's a program we can spread to the whole country, if you will.
I have an interesting story from a past client. I would always try to push her to do just a bit more, over the years. And I would say, she said to me once, she said, Russell, if I can do 10 push-ups today, and then a year from now, I can do 10 push-ups, I'll be happy. And I was just blown away. I was like, okay. Have you ever had a client like that? Or are you always trying to like push them to grow? And are you okay with someone has that mentality?
I mean, I'm happy that if people are there exercising, so they're going to get stronger. Like I said earlier, we've got these movement standards. So I tell people like, hey, I think you could get towards these 12 movement standards. And then once you hit those, you don't necessarily need to get any stronger. You just need to stay there.
Do you have a lot of 60-plus-year-old women doing like a 1.5 body weight times 3?
Certainly not a lot, but they're on their way. Okay. Lots of them on their way there. We have a handful though they're doing all the right things. And when we created the standards, we wanted to make sure that when someone hit all 12 of them, they would be really, really fit and healthy and feel good. It's kind of like, hey, if you can do all 12 of these things at this level, you're going to have checked all your boxes for health from a movement standpoint.
And I know you're a doctor of physical therapy and you do strength training and fitness, but I have no doubt that the clients are asking you about nutrition. I'm curious, what is your advice to them about nutrition?
That's a great question. I mean, I start with a lot of questions for people. So we have a nutritionist on our staff. We talk about nutrition a lot in our book that we wrote. It's like over 50% nutrition. It's really exercise is honestly, it's pretty simple. I think it's like you do basic movements. You start at a level that's appropriate for you. Like, don't go back and start at what you did in high school. We're going to regress you back to something appropriate. Then we're going to progress really slowly with the same movements over time. And you're going to listen to your body. If you're not feeling well one day, you back off. If you're feeling fantastic, you push yourself. And then you move a lot. You walk, you hike, you ride a bike, get outside in the sun. Like that's movement, fitness. It's, I think, fairly simple. Nutrition is probably more complicated because there's a lot of things to consider, like dietary preferences and people's history with food, their psychology. So we start with a lot of questions, and then the basics from what we coach people to do from a nutrition standpoint. We talk a lot about controlling your carbohydrate intake, especially if somebody wants to lose weight or have more energy. So we encourage them not to eat Fruit Loops.
I was going to ask that, but yeah, you beat me to it.
Yeah. Yeah, not even the healthy Fruit Loops. Sorry, Scott.
The healthy. Yeah, I like the healthy Fruit Loops.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no Fruit Loops. We talk about fat and how it's, natural fat is actually really healthy for us, and that's the body's preferred form of energy. And so we talk about eating fat the way nature made it. So things like avocados, nuts and seeds, olive oil, butter, dairy products from good sources. Like we're big fans of healthy fat, we call it. And then we also really encourage our clients to avoid man-made processed fats like vegetable oils, cottonseed, corn, canola, soy, sunflower, safflower. There's a ton of research that's come out recently showing that those oils, when they go through their processing, actually become rather toxic for us, and they're pretty rampant in the world today, whether it be in restaurant food or in packaged foods. So we talk a lot about not eating those, and then we're really big on vegetables. Like get a ton of vegetables, a variety of colors. If you do those three things, control your carbs, eat healthy fats and avoid toxic ones, eat a lot of vegetables, you're going to be pretty darn healthy.
And I notice in looking at your book, it seems you don't like the idea of counting calories.
Yeah, not a huge fan. I mean, if you do the three things I just mentioned, I think that the calories will to some degree take care of themselves, because your appetite should regulate. When you eat foods that are high in fast digesting carbohydrates, your body tends to crave more of those very same foods, and people tend to overeat. It's honestly, it's challenging to overeat healthy food.
Yeah, you can pretty much eat all you want.
Yeah, well, most people don't. They don't overeat. They eat a normal amount. So we find quite a bit of success with our clients with just getting them to do those three things, and obviously making sure they're getting enough protein. I guess that'd be the fourth thing. They do those things. They tend to get a lot of excess weight off. They feel pretty good. Now, for the person who's like, oh, I want to lose the last 5 to 10 pounds of body fat and I want to be really lean, then we probably do need to start counting calories and really getting into the minutia. But most of my clients, they don't want that. They want to not be 100 pounds or 50 pounds overweight. They want to be really mobile, strong. They want to get up and down off the ground with ease. And they want to be able to keep up with their kids, their grandkids. They want to get up from a paddleboard. They want to be able to go and walk the streets of the Champs-Élysées or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Calorie is actually a term borrowed from physics, as you probably know, right? It's like to raise water by 1 degree. And it's a very simplistic formula for people to understand, like, calories in, calories out. If I eat this, I can, pay it off by doing X, and just, it's not that simple. But, well, Matt, we're going to move on to the final portion of this show where we get to learn a little bit more about you and what you like in the San Gabriel Valley. Matt, this is what we call the SGV3, and we ask you to share your 3 favorite or most memorable places or experiences in the San Gabriel Valley. So, Matt, what would be number 1?
So, I have a lot of fun memories in the mountains around the San Gabriel Valley, but those do not count because they're mountains and not valley, as you informed me before the show. So I did come up with 3 that are in the San Gabriel Valley. So one of my favorite places to go, specifically on the weekends, is Victory Park in Pasadena for the farmers market. I really think that is one of the best farmers markets around, and I think that when you're really intentional about something, you're going to naturally become better at it and get a lot out of it. So I think if you become intentional with your food, for example, you're going to become healthier. And so my wife goes to the farmer's market most Saturdays. She talks with the vendors. When I go, I talk with the vendors, and they're regular people that are really passionate about good food. Like they'll talk to you about what sort of pest control strategy they use, where they get their fish from, how they grow their apples, how they, prepare and butcher their meat. And most people, like when they go to the store and they buy, chicken or Fruit Loops, they don't really think too much about, well, where did this food actually come from? If you go to McDonald's and order a hamburger, it's like we don't think too much about, like, how did this food actually get here on my plate? Like, what all went into this? And if you actually like read books on it and understand that process, it's pretty scary how most of the calories, if you will, that Americans are ingesting, how they get on our plate. So I love good farmers markets, and also just love going out there on Saturdays. So that's my first one.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. That's my farmer's market. I go there on Saturdays. Yeah.
I'll have to look out for you.
There's the egg vendor there that you can get the dark yolk eggs.
I had those this morning.
Yeah, I had those. Those are amazing. And there's a fruit vendor. It's a Vietnamese family. They're from Fresno. They come, with their kids now and the wife. And their fruits that they bring are seasonal, right? So they don't just always carry the same stuff. And every single fruit that they have is incredibly sweet. Incredibly sweet. They're on the side closer to the field.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We try to get there early and get the Harry's berries.
Mm-hmm. It's actually right across from there. So right across from Harry's berries.
Oh, we get their fruit. They're fantastic.
Yeah, very
They
good.
have a lot of citrus.
Right now they have a lot of citrus, but they also have some grapes at certain times, and then some stone fruit, in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah, their stone fruit is fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's a good Fruit Loop vendor.
Organic. Organic
it's
Fruit
seasonal.
Loops.
Seasonal. They're
Can you imagine?
seasonal Fruit Loops. Yeah.
Oh, man.
What would be number 2?
So number 2 is actually Glendora Mountain Road. GMR. Yeah. I rode my bike on Glendora Mountain Road this morning, and I've probably ridden up and down that road 500 times.
Wow.
Since I moved down here.
Wow.
And it's technically in the San Gabriel Valley, but also kind of in the mountains. So I got to put that one in there.
You did GMR this morning?
This morning, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's tough.
Is it? Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, it's a fantastic road that has very few cars on it during the week. On the weekends, people go and race their 86 Corollas up there,
Was it foggy?
No, it was a beautiful morning.
Sometimes it can get quite foggy, right?
Yeah, really foggy up there. But yeah, that's been a really fun thing that I've built a lot of relationships with people doing, is riding up and down that road and chatting with them.
Fun 1 or fun 2?
It's somewhere in between. It's like 1.5 fun because it's definitely not as hard as hiking 11,000 feet in 0.69 miles. I'll tell you that.
1,100 feet.
Oh, sorry, 1,100. Yeah, forgive me.
And what's number 3, Matt?
Number 3 is a restaurant. There's a restaurant in Claremont called Uno Tre Otto, and they used to source all of their produce from a farm out in Ontario called Amy's Farm. And Amy's Farm unfortunately closed down due to industrialization of Ontario. But still one of my favorite restaurants in the area. It was one of the first places my wife and I went out to eat in the San Gabriel Valley. Claremont is in the San Gabriel Valley.
It is, yes.
Okay, it's like right on the outskirts on the east side.
Yes.
Okay. I had to look this up. And they're really intentional about their food, about how they prepare it. It's a really, really fun restaurant. My wife and I have had a lot of meaningful moments at that restaurant and great conversations. Like that was, I think, one of the first places we went. It was one of the first restaurants that had started outdoor dining after COVID, or like during COVID, really. And I have a vivid memory of us going and sitting outside there and having all these conversations about what was going on in the world and what we were going to do as a business to respond to that. So meaningful place for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I have seen some maps that have the San Gabriel Valley highlighted and Glendora cut out. Have you?
What?
Yeah, I don't understand why.
Gosh,
but I have seen that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad we made the cut in your San Gabriel Valley.
It's funny because you have quite literal conversations with some listeners on, what is the San Gabriel Valley?
Oh, yes.
What is and what isn't, and why is it not? Why is our community not in your intro?
Yeah.
People, they really are passionate about their community and the San Gabriel Valley.
I get it.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys? I'm sure you've shared your San Gabriel Valley 3 on this podcast before, right?
I have, yes.
You have? Okay.
And check this out. And I'm sort of giddy about it, right? Somebody named my home as one of their SGV3.
Oh.
And I feel so like, wow, because it has become this thing where people look forward to it. It's an interesting part of the show. The listeners get to, hear it. And I feel this, sort of sense of like, oh, that's very cool. My own home was named as one of them.
That's cool. Where is your home?
That home was my childhood home in Monterey Park.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a childhood friend.
Oh, nice.
That he had named it as one of his, spots.
That's awesome.
So, well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey with us and your accomplishments and your jokes, especially about Scott. If you want to get a hold of you or maybe even become a client of yours, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Website, villagefpt.com. So fitnessphysicaltherapy.com.
Wonderful. And you're on social media as well, right?
I am Dr. Matt Klingler on Instagram.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's really fun.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. Another show in the books. I really enjoyed that conversation. A lot of laughs and a lot of relatable moments there. I think you can hear the difference between Dr. Matt's experience, knowledge, and passion compared to these fitness people that I see online, or even like a young trainer, and just the level of experience and what they're passionate about and what they're oriented towards. Not bulging biceps and deadlifting 600 pounds, but really the journey of keeping your body functioning for a long time, and that becomes really important for people as they get older. So I would definitely recommend checking out Matt and his team and what they're doing. Thank you again for spending this time with us. We do appreciate it, especially if you're new here. Please consider subscribing. Don't forget to check out our full back catalog of episodes on our website, mysgv.net. We have our shop on there where you can check out our gear, some hats, stickers, and shirts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us on the MySGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Russell Mono and edited by Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice matter. No, kind matter.